Thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Mourners pay their respects today to the Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., who began lying in repose this morning at Rainbow Push headquarters. In just a few minutes, we'll hear from the civil rights icon leader's eldest about her father's legacy. But first, a look at how Chicagoans and people from around the country paid their respects to the Reverend. The procession began this morning, carrying Jackson from Leak & Sons Funeral Home in Grand Crossing to Rainbow Push in Kenwood. Upon arrival, Jackson's family went inside for a private ceremony before the public was admitted. When doors opened at 10 a.m., mourners streamed in to view Jackson, greeted by members of his family and dignitaries, including Mayor Brandon Johnson, Reverend Al Sharpton, and former Congressman Bobby Rush. Religious leaders from across the city offered blessings, including Cardinal Blaise Supich and Father Michael Flager. Prayer and music filled the gathering space, as did a series of videos highlighting Jackson's long life and the many arenas in which he had an impact. And notable visitors shared their thoughts outside and with the Rainbow Push Coalition podcast.
We spent a lifetime together. I've seen him stand up against adversity. I've seen him break history. There would not have been a Democratic Party the way it is today had it not been for him changing the rules that opened the door to Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. His international diplomacy, what he's done for all of us, I want it to be clear. He raised a generation of us to deal with activism, and he never gave up.
All of the areas in which Reverend Jackson fought for and lived his life for, those efforts are under attack. And the city of Chicago and the world reflecting on Reverend Jackson's life, my hope and my prayer is that people recognize what our assignment is in this season, that hope is only alive if we show up in resistance, resisting tyranny and fighting for working people across this city, across the country and around the globe.
I believe that we all are to live Galatians. We're here to love and serve. He modeled that, and he modeled that in a way that it made all of us try to do better and emulate, and that's why we must continue that as we go forward.
I was always impressed by Reverend Jackson's ability to crystallize the issues of the day and to present them and share them with people in a really understandable and impactful way. He had a unique ability to distill the challenges that we faced as people.
He never got offended, even when people would come up to him because they didn't know him and they'd say something, not pleasant, he would still be pleasant. Yeah. And he taught me patience. He taught me grace. He had a lot of grace for people. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a man who taught me that I'd rather survive off the oxygen of grace versus the carbon dioxide of thanks. That grace is your actions, thanks is just words.
Long lines of people from around the country gathered for their turn to take part in the memorial. Some knew Jackson personally. Many others were merely inspired by his lifetime of work and its lasting legacy.
King reached out to the young people, and Jesse reached out to the young people, because I was one of them. When he came to my high school, him and Harold, they said, we got to get the young people. So we got to get the young people to understand you standing on the shoulders of someone else. You didn't create this, someone else created it.
What we learned is basically we are somebody. He changed our lives even when we didn't know him like that. Learning about him was a very blessing.
We are to have hope every day, to carry ourselves with dignity, and that's very important.
Jackson will lie in repose until 10 p.m. tonight, and then doors will open at 10 a.m. tomorrow for further public viewing. Next week, Jackson will be memorialized in South Carolina, where he'll lie in state at the State House there, as well as a commemoration in Washington, D.C. Next Friday brings the People's Celebration at House of Hope, followed by a private homegoing ceremony next Saturday. Up next, we sit down with Reverend Jackson's daughter, Santita, right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
Icon, titan, leader, reverend. Jesse Jackson Sr. was called by many names in his day, but tonight's guest had just one name in particular for him, Dad. Joining us to discuss her father's legacy is Santita Jackson, Reverend Jesse Jackson's daughter and host of the Santita Jackson Show. You are his oldest daughter. Tell me what you really called him.
And Keep Hope Alive. It's been our nationally syndicated radio show for 22 years now.
Yes, named for the great speech that we all know your father to give. What did you call him?
Well, I called him Daddy.
Daddy. Even as an adult, just because I feel like
he was Daddy.
Exactly. Well, I often think that even as adult black women, we still call our father Daddy, not just as little girls.
When they are Daddy.
Yeah.
I remember I took my father out for Father's Day in 2008. I'll never forget it. It was a day that President Obama spoke at Apostolic Church of God, and he'd given the speech about fathers telling black fathers that they needed to be responsible. And it was a painful moment for many black fathers who have really tried to be responsive to their children. Indeed, the most involved father in America is the black father, according to the Centers for Disease Control. That was a study that came out in 2014 or 2015. And we were talking about it along with other people at the table, and I tried to pay the bill. And my father said, no. The fact that you want to be with me on Father's Day means everything. But there were a lot of people at the table. It was going to be a big bill, but that was fine. I could pay it. And I tried one more time. He said, no, don't take my daddiness from me. And I was a good and grown woman. But he said, I'm your father. I'm your daddy. Don't take that from me. I take care of you. I don't need you to take care of me. And when you pass on, and I hope to go before you, I will be at the right hand of God. God is your father. I'm your daddy. So Daddy, but in a professional context, he was Reverend. And that was something that my mother encouraged. Now, he did not really like for me to call him Reverend because he was Daddy. But interestingly, she said, you don't need to look like you have the inside track. And you need to understand the institution of Reverend Jackson, which is something that we began to see and understand. A lot of people thanked us today for sharing our father with them. You sacrificed your father. I said, no, we did not sacrifice him. The part of our father who belonged to us was there, but we were also very present with him. He left nothing on the table when it came to being a father.
Yeah, so to that, you mentioned, sort of sharing your father. He is lying in repose at Rainbow Push Coalition headquarters today and tomorrow. Thousands of people coming to pay their respects today, thousands more tomorrow. Likely you, in fact, are heading back down there this evening to continue to greet those mourners. What is it like to see so many people joining you and your family in paying their respects?
Oh, it's so moving. And it's really uplifting. Whenever I have a moment, and sometimes you do have those moments when you get a little choked up. The fact is, seeing and feeling the love, seeing this overwhelming response from people who have this personal connection with him, and they have so many stories. I either met him or I did not meet him, but he touched me in such a profound way. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing to say, and it's buoying, quite frankly. You don't really get a chance to, I'm not going to say to grieve, because I think when you've been loved hard, when you've been loved well, you do grieve hard, and you grieve in a fulsome way. But our father also told us that if you cannot make it beyond me, I will not have done my job. So I need you to carry on. And that is what we intend to do. So it really has been an uplifting day.
We tend to think of our parents as being around forever, right?
Oh, you want them to be, right?
You want them to be, but we all know that is not the nature of this life. I've known of your father as long as I've known of my own, right? He's always been there. And a personality that big, our parents are huge in our lives. We tend to think they'll never die, right?
Well,
that they will be there forever.
Not in my case. In my case, my father came from a generation of men who didn't make it past 39. I bumped into my feed is populated with clips about him since his passing. It's just been pretty amazing. And I saw an interview that he did with CNN when he had turned 50. And he was asked by the interviewer, there's some exchange, and she said, wait a minute, are you denying that you're 50, like, you're getting older? Even though he looked like he was about 35. He said, no, 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 no. People in my line of work don't make it to 50. So this is a blessing. And when I turned 25, we were talking. I said, oh, I'm getting old. And my mother said, you're getting old. You're going to get married. What are you going to do? And he said, you know, I don't want you to do that. He said, you know, if you don't like birthdays, try missing one. And we've been blessed to have more years because people in our space don't live that long. You know, Martin and Malcolm, 39 when they were killed. Ed Medgar Evers, 37. So we had him a good long time. But you never want to see your parents go, right? Of course. But he was really struggling with his form of Parkinson's. It was very difficult for him. But he kept holding on. He kept holding on. And finally the Lord took him, and God bless him. God bless him, because this is someone who left nothing on the table. He lived a full life, and he made his contribution.
In 2006, when Coretta Scott King died, Reverend Jackson came to this studio and talked about her legacy. He also spoke about he and Dr. King thought about their own safety and mortality. Here's a bit of that.
When I was running for presidency, the biggest anxiety I had was that my wife may become widowed and children left without a father. I did not let that paralyze me, but I knew what the stakes were. Because of the number of threats that came. So
Did you ever hear her talk about that, Mrs. King?
Well, she talked about it, but not in a way. Dr. King's point was there's no defense against ambush and sabotage, so do not get preoccupied with it. We did not therefore walk around with a bunch of bodyguards. You know, he said, you know, you die once, a coward dies 1,000 deaths. So we rationalized that we would not live but so long. But in that living, live fully, don't live afraid.
As a child, was that sort of baked into your household?
Absolutely.
Were you fearful of your father ever being hurt?
Yeah, not being hurt, being killed. The Chicago police were stationed out in front of our home all of my life. He had a police detail assigned to him, and we had a black security service who also trailed him. I never knew a day that I thought he would live to see the end of. Never. Indeed, the week of my senior prom, they had in the Parade magazine supplement the 10 most likely targets of an assassination, a global assassination plot. And they had the Pope, they had the President. My father was third on the list. The President had been shot 2 months before. The Pope was shot 3 days after I read that. And so I couldn't tell anyone. I didn't want to talk to my father about that. And I certainly didn't want to tell my mother and add to her,
to her own fears.
To her own fears, which she did not express to us, but I knew that they were there. And so we never took anything for granted. I think the upside of that is that every Christmas, every Easter, every Thanksgiving, every time, every encounter that we had, we treated those encounters as sacred, because you never, as my brother put it, my brother, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. put it this way, you don't feel quite the same way that others do about having a bad word or having a rebellion against your parents if you think that every time you see them will be the last time that you do.
So last Wednesday, you and your siblings, you all called for a continuation of your father's work and his mission. I want to play a clip of him on Chicago Tonight back in 1985, where he shares his thoughts about leadership, which he might still say are important today.
So I happen to think, and I hope John does not jump too fast on me on this point, that one of our problems now, perhaps, is that we have too many thinking leaders and not enough feeling leaders. And by that I mean that thinkers devoid of feeling or compassion are very hard, and yet people who feel also think. There must be a greater sense of human feeling in our government judgments. We cannot, as leaders, just follow opinion polls. We must mold opinion.
Talk to us a little bit about, your father as a leader and his mission, and what carrying on that torch, that work looks like.
I think that number one, there is no torch to be passed. I think that you have to do the work. What he did was, one of the things that I learned from him was that he never had enemies. He had opponents. And so you would be surprised at the people with whom he was able to interact. He could speak with President Trump, and he did. He could speak to people on the far right. He could speak to people on the far left. And they all liked him very much because he was an integrous guy. You knew exactly what he stood for. He was not going to back away from that. But what he was also going to do was, while he was in disagreement with you, he would not be disagreeable. He always left the door open for us to have a point of negotiation, a point of agreement, so that we could really move into other areas where we might have other points of agreement, or certainly points where we can come together on something. And so, as he just said in that clip, you can't just think, you've got to feel. People don't remember what you said, they really remember how you made them feel. Indeed, it's one thing to lead, to head an organization, it's another thing to lead people. And you can't lead people who don't feel good about you. And one of the things that we are seeing, that we've seen today, is that people trusted him because they knew that when he went into a room that he was going to stand up for the least of these in particular. And one of the things that I've heard from people all across the ideological spectrum was that he was an integrous man who could not be bought off, that he was a man who meant what he said what he meant, he stood on it, and then he left it alone.
What, like many public figures, right, especially those who have had such long careers.
Well, very, very few people have had 6 decades, right?
Very few, absolutely. Yeah. But some have, and they are a small club, but they're going to face challenges and criticism in that time. How did he handle adversity? How did you see him handle that?
He kept it going. You know, he would say, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgive them, for they know not what they say. They know not what they think." It's not that he felt that himself, he modeled himself on Jesus, as Christians do, or at least as we should. He understood the criticisms, but he was never addled by criticism. He just said, okay, you have an opinion, but I have a vision, and I'm going to stick to that vision, and I'm going to break the tape. I'm going to follow it through. I'm going to keep on running. And so he would never, I never really saw my father get down.
What about his own mistakes? Because we are all human and we all make them.
And
How
you
did
saw
he
that
handle those?
in the 1984 speech, he apologized for them. One of the things that I do appreciate about him is that he was man enough, grown enough, humane enough to apologize. If he hurt you, and he would say, you know, in my finitude, if I hurt you, if my joy bell lost its resonance, please forgive me, for God is not finished with me yet. And that really, the humility that it took. He was never, and I say he is, I guess because he'll always be with me, and I think he'll always be with us. I am somebody who will resonate through the ages. Keep Hope Alive will resonate through the ages. My mind is a pearl, I can learn anything in the world will resonate through the ages. And it's interesting that that which he has given to people, to humanity, has been positive, it's been uplifting. And I think that's a lesson that we can all learn. It's the good things that you do that last forever. It's the good that you bring out in people. It's the good that, it's how you make people feel. If you uplift people, you'll live forever with them.
His impact was seen not just in this country, of course, around the world. Yes. Here he is in this studio again back in 2007 talking about what he saw as the importance of diplomacy over the power of war.
You know, every time I was blessed to bring some Americans home from a foreign jail. I brought Goodman home from Syria. I met with Assad. I brought Americans home from Cuba with Castro. I brought Americans home from Iraq with Saddam Hussein, meeting with him. I brought Americans home from Yugoslavia, meeting with Milosevic. I don't know how you break the cycle of the Cold War unless you're willing to, in fact, engage in aggressive diplomacy. And so I think that walls have not worked. Hot rhetoric in Cold War has not worked, and so someone must have the authority. Just as Nixon went to China, just as Reagan challenged the Berlin Wall, we need that kind of boldness, it seems to me, in foreign policy. We are strong enough to have strong diplomacy backed up by military, not military backed up by hot rhetoric that ends up in a lot of people killed unnecessarily.
You know, Brandis, excuse me, when I look at that, because you've given me a lot of wonderful clips, what's so interesting to me, it's kind of funny, he would come off of one of those shows, and if I called him on his mobile phone, he wouldn't discuss the show with me. He'd want to know how I was doing. Indeed, when he hired his secretaries, he said, you must always remember this, when my wife or my children call, no matter what I'm doing, you always, always, always put them through. And he even had a special line in his office from the house where we would just call him. So, you know, when I see these clips, I think about that, the access that I had to my father. A friend, someone who worked for him, my father turned away and we were in a hall filled with thousands of people, and I had forgotten something, and he was walking many, many feet away, and I shouted, "Daddy!" Because I had to give him something. I said, "Oh my goodness." And Marcus said, my friend said, "Your father stopped and said, my baby's calling me." Now, I, by this time, was deep into my 30s.
But still his baby.
Still his baby, but he heard me calling. And he stopped and he turned around and started walking back, and he was trying to catch a plane. He was late, but
So
he had to see.
You remember the father that put his family first versus the icon, titan leader that the rest of us.
He put everyone first, but yeah, I mean, I never ever felt, when people tell me that he sacrificed, basically he sacrificed us for them. No, I said no. We were with him many places. Did he spend, I think he always wanted to spend more time with us. I said, but Dad, we were always with you. You made sure that we would go places with you. And we always felt that we always knew that we had access to you. And so, so when I see these clips, I'm thinking about that I see Reverend, but I also see my daddy.
Your daddy, who was also involved in global issues.
Yes.
Why did he want to do that?
Because we're global citizens. We came here on a global policy. We're Africans who were brought to the United States of America, well, then to the colonies.
And he was the one who popularized the terminology, phrasing us as African American.
Well, to connect us to the diaspora. Indeed, more Africans were taken to South and Central America. We're in Mexico. We're all over the world, but we are certainly all through the Americas. And so to connect us to our homeland, just as you, Italian Americans, everybody, German Americans, everybody connected to their homeland except African Americans, which really is nonsensical. But I do understand Black Americans, because I identify with that also, those of us who are descendant of Africans who were enslaved here. I absolutely understand that and appreciate that. But I also connect to my Colombian brothers and sisters, and my sisters and brothers in Venezuela and Cuba. And we go, Brandis, we can go anywhere in the Americas and they won't ask us for a passport because we blend.
They might think we speak their language. Since we're talking about family, I want to get quickly to this last clip, because when Mayor Richard J. Daley died in 1976, Reverend Jackson joined John Calloway on WTTW to provide reflections, and in doing so, he talked about something he greatly admired about the mayor.
Yes.
Now, one of the things on a very personal side that always impressed me was during this period of family disintegration, for him to maintain a stable family life. And as classical as it was for him to have been talking with Michael when he died, knowing how hard he struggled to transmit his heritage and his legacy to his children, seems to me to be a fantastic model, a very human model for people to emulate.
And they were at those services today.
Yes.
Several of the Daleys.
Oh,
absolutely.
wow.
Even though my father and the mayor had their battles, that didn't go beyond that generation. And even then, my father said he was one of his great teachers.
What were dinner table conversations? Did he tell any dad jokes?
Oh, he was funny. Oh, he was hilarious. He had a very,
we all know he had all the personality.
Well, but my mother's really the extrovert. Dad was an introvert, but he was someone who was very insightful. And if you notice, comedians are very, very insightful. They see things that most people don't see. And that's who he was.
That's who he was. Santita Jackson, it's been an honor to have you here in studio to share memories of your father. Thank you so much for joining us. May he rest in peace. May his memory be a blessing. I know you're going back down to Kenwood tonight to greet mourners, so thank you for fitting us in.
Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you. And we're back to wrap things up right after this.
Reflecting the people and perspectives that make up our communities, this story is part of Chicago Tonight, Black Voices.
And that is our show for this Thursday night. Illinois' primary election is less than 3 weeks away. You can check out our online voter guide to learn more about the candidates who are running and what the offices do, as well as where, when, and how you can vote. You can find it all at WTTW.com/voter guide. Join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 7 for the Week in Review. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm and sponsor of programming that offers continuing education to fellow legal practitioners in Illinois.